Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1466.
Chance favors the prepared mind.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. I am revved up and so excited to share with you today a very special guest, Joshua Paul, who's calling in from Brooklyn, New York. Joshua Paul is the founder, publisher, and editor-in-chief at Lollipop Grand Prix Media. We're going to learn a little bit more about that name in a minute. He is a portrait, travel, and automobile and racing photographer who has earned numerous awards from American Photography, Communication Arts, a magazine I've subscribed to for many years, the Society of Publication Designers, Type Directors Club, and Photo District News. Aside from traveling to over 95 countries, usually off the beaten path, Josh has photographed over 75 Formula One races and taken portraits of every driver there is. He's the only permanently accredited American photographer for Formula One. One of his cameras of choice is a very unique 1913 Graflex Auto RB that gives the viewer a very unique perspective of modern races. We're going to learn about that too. Joshua earned his BA in English and Creative Writing at the University of Washington, just north of where I live here in Gig Harbor, and his BFA in Photography from the accredited Art Center College of Design. Many guests who went to that incredible school have been guests here. I'll be back in just a minute to talk to Josh, but first, a word from our valued sponsors who make Cars Yeah possible. Winter's here and things can get a little messy. Rain, snow, salt, mud, dirt, and everything Mother Nature comes up with can hurt the finishes of your vehicles, both inside and out. I'm not worried, though, because I've used Covercraft car covers on my rides since 1975. Today, Covercraft offers you a total solution to vehicle protection. They make the best-fitting, finest-made car covers in the world and offer a wide variety of materials, colors, and options that protect your paint and the interior, too. Live where it's sunny all the time? Lucky. Covercraft dash covers and sunscreens are the best. Got pets, messy kids, messy in-laws, or just messy friends? Covercraft seat covers are the perfect fit and the perfect solution for keeping your seats looking new. And don't forget their custom fit floor mats and trunk liners. They are a must-have for all your vehicles. Your cars, trucks, van, or whatever you drive will say thank you. And I've got a deal for you. During January 2020, you can get 10% off plus free shipping on all Covercraft products. That's right. Go to covercraft.com and use the code YEAH120. That's YEAH120 at checkout. That's covercraft.com and use the code YEAH120 at checkout. Hey, Cars Yeah race fans. Andy Collins, owner of Armadillo Racing, is a past guest here on Cars Yeah. Last year, I was honored to be a speaker at his high-performance racing seminar, and having attended, I can tell you it's an invaluable learning experience if you love to race. This year marks the 25th anniversary of Armadillo's high-performance racing seminars, and it takes place Saturday, February 8th in Tacoma, Washington. For your seminar fee, you'll spend a day with 4 of racing's premier professionals on how to improve your driving and much, much more. This year's outstanding speaker lineup include Jacques Delary, PhD, world-renowned high-performance driving and life coach, Jeff Braun, a race engineer with a history at Core Racing and IMSA, Ross Bentley, top driving coach, author of world-renowned Speed Secrets and a fellow podcaster, and Dan Davis, retired director of motorsports for Ford Motor Company. All of these incredible racing experts are past guests here on Cars Yeah. As an added bonus for Cars Yeah listeners, you'll get to join these speakers at the Friday night reception at the incredible LeMay Car Museum for free. That's right. It's a $50 value if you sign up by January 15th. What a deal. Go to Armadillo Racing's website and register. That's armadilloracing.com. Hello and welcome, Josh. How you doing? Are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I'm buckled up. Thank you.
All right. Thing that you've seen many times being at many races. Would you say hello to our Cars Yeah audience? And before I jump into the questions, just tell us a little bit about yourself and this incredible life you've created.
Well, I kind of stumbled into Formula One racing. I went on holiday to Spain for a month in summer in May of 2013. And I went to go see a rock concert. I went to go see the band Blur play Primavera Sound. Knowing I was going there, a friend of mine who was the editor-in-chief at Road and Track magazine, Dave Speranza, he was a photo editor at Road and Track. He said, hey, you're going to be in Spain during the race. Would you like to shoot the race for us? And we can we'll apply for accreditation for you and do supply images. So I've been an F1 fan since the Senna days. When I was a kid, I discovered it on TV. I said, yeah, shoot the race. So we applied for accreditation. I didn't hear back from the FIA. So we sent a letter, 2 weeks later, didn't hear back from the FIA. And in the meantime, Dave said, hey, sorry about the F1 thing, but we're going to do Mille Miglia with the Porsche factory team. Would you want to do that instead? And I was like, that sounds fantastic. So I said yes to that. In the meantime, a few days before my trip, the FAA did send me accreditation, and suddenly I was an accredited F1 photographer for that single race. So I, packed differently. I brought cameras, brought lenses, didn't know what I was going to do, but I just thought, just have some fun shooting an F1 race and make some pictures for my walls and for Road and Track. When I got to the race, I went and said thank you to the FIA. The person there was, the photo delegate was Pat Behar. And I went and said hi to him. And he said, Joshua, we're so happy to have you here. We love your work. And he'd gone to my website extensively. And he was referring to images and of other car images I'd taken for a kind of a personal portfolio. And he said, you must come to Monaco. You must come to Monaco. But I need your accreditation. Apply now. So before I even unpacked my bags, I was at the desk in the accreditation center with like 500 journalists, all seemed to know what they're doing. And I sent Dave an email and said, hey, can we apply for Monaco? They want me to come to Monaco. And it just started this thing that's lasted 7 years.
Yeah, it's, be careful what you step into because you might just end there for some time. And, we're going to learn a lot more about you as we go through the questions. And I want you to share a bit about this very unique camera that you use. That's what attracted me to you. That's how I originally found you. But before I jump into the first question here, tell our listeners something that most people don't know about you.
I actually consider myself probably a better cook than photographer.
Wow.
I cook like 6 days a week. Read food. But I think photography and cooking have a lot in common, and it's a lot about the process. Think through an idea. What am I going to make? I'm inspired by what's being sold at the farmer's market, and keep it simple. Just come in the kitchen, keep it simple, and just use essential ingredients like olive oil and salt, and good quality foods. I find it very relaxing.
Yeah, this is very cool. And this is kind of a new question I've just started asking guests here on Cars Yeah this year, since we're in the new year here, 2020. Do you have a favorite type of food that you cook?
I would say probably influenced by Italian cooking. But I mean, really, if you find a good tomato and use, nice olive oil and sea salt, it doesn't need much more than that.
Yeah, pretty cool. All right. Well, next time I'm in New York, I'm going to ring you up and have you cook me some special meal.
You're welcome
anytime. Bit about photography. That'd be fun. You can
always be my guest, please.
Well, thank you. That's great. Well, as we continue on this journey we call your life, and boy, what an exciting life you've had. I know you've been all over the planet. You've done some really incredible things, and you're not a guy that just goes to touristy spots. You get way, way off the beaten path. But I want you to share with our listeners a cool mantra, a quote, some kind of saying that has meaning for you, a success quote maybe. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So Josh, grab the wheel.
So my favorite quote is by Louis Pasteur, and it's chance favors the prepared mind. And what it means, I didn't understand it for a long time. I think some things that are very obvious sometimes take me a little longer to understand. But basically, it means just say yes to things and take risks. I didn't realize I was such a risk taker until I kind of looked back at my life after a few years of doing what I did and realized that this is actually happening. This isn't luck. This is comes from hard work and determination and basically saying yes to risky things and being vulnerable and putting stuff out there. And every time I've done it, it just pays off in tenfold, and it just feels like a life worth living,
Well, it's a very cool quote. I don't believe anybody, and after interviewing 1,450 plus people, sometimes it's hard to remember every quote. Sometimes it's hard to remember every name, unfortunately. It must be my age. But, I love this quote. I love everything about it. And it goes back to what you shared at the beginning of our talk, where you were offered an opportunity to go shoot something you'd never done before. Yeah, sure. Why not? And I've always said, when you have an opportunity to go somewhere and travel and do something new, always say yes. Because even if you've never done it, you know what? This day and age, there's so much information. You can figure it out. I mean, if you need to wire a new refrigerator into your house, just pull up YouTube and it'll teach you how to do it. Just turn the breaker off first. That's the key thing. But I think it's great.
The funny thing is, recently I flew to Abu Dhabi for the last race of the season, and I booked my flight the day before the trip. It was a last minute, decision. And I had to fly through Cairo. It was 24 hours of traveling. And, a lot of things can go wrong, but I had to be there on Thursday morning. And it was only, it's already kind of running late. I usually come a few days before the race or the media day starts. My anxiety from travel is getting to the airport. It's the dumbest thing, but I have this anxiety that I'm going to miss my flight. Once I'm checked in and my bags are in, I can be flying anywhere in the world. I'm not totally intrepid, but I'm not afraid. Like, it's going to be fine. It's just getting to the airport. It's totally irrational.
No, it's called airport anxiety. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have a good friend that I travel to car events with. I used to race with him when we both raced vintage cars. And whenever I travel with him, he's always like, okay, we need to leave an hour earlier than you want to leave, because I just have airport anxiety. I gotta get there. I don't care if I'm early. There's plenty to do nowadays with computers. And
I left 4 hours early for that trip, and I got there so early. And I'm like, but peace of mind is priceless.
Yes. Well, it is. It doesn't take much to mess up a roadway, and missing a flight, especially something like that, a long overseas flight. Oh my gosh. The extra troubles is just not worth it. So yeah, leave early. That's definitely true. Well, what has you, now we're in the new year here, 2020. Can't believe we're in a new decade. Like I said at the beginning, it's frightening how fast time has flown by. What has you excited and fired up today about your business and what you're doing there at Lollipop Grand Prix?
I made 5 issues of the magazine. I photographed 7 seasons. The last couple months I've been thinking, have I kind of done this? Am I done with this project and what's going to be next? And every time I think that, the phone rings and something exciting comes related to it. And, the last few weeks I've had 3 or 4 phone calls that could lead to huge projects. And we don't realize how we're influencing people anymore. I think part of that is that we don't socialize like we used to. And in New York City, we used to, when I shot film, I still shoot film, but when we all shot film, we go to the lab and we'd see our friends, our other photographers, other assistants, the lab guys. We'd go have a coffee, we'd go have lunch, wait for the film to process. And it was so much more social interaction. So you kind of knew what was going on. Or I'd go have a meeting with the magazine and bring a portfolio and we'd have a chat about, their kids or what concert we're going to see or what the museums. And now there's very little interaction. So sometimes you don't know you're making an impact on someone, and it feels great to, and I also don't judge my success by the amount of likes I get on Instagram. I think that's very unhealthy. But it's very good to know that people are out there and they're excited and they like what I do and what I contribute, and they send occasionally, a letter or just a text that they're inspired and what kind of camera do you have, and I give all that information up. I encourage it.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting, but I think you're right. Exactly. We tend to have become, as a society, because of how supposedly connected we are, introverted in many a sense, which shields you from a lot of reality in many ways. People have this perception of you, or we have a perception of others, which is not really accurate because you don't get a chance to just sit with them and chat over a coffee or drink or a meal or whatever it might be. So might be something for those listeners out there to think about. I know something I've thought heavily about is in the new year, the new decade, spend more time with people, actually face to face with people, make that effort. And it's what you talked about earlier. When you have an opportunity to go do something, don't say no, just go do it. You can always leave early if you don't like it, but just get out and do things and interact more. It's very well put. I love it. Talk to our listeners a little bit about when you realized that this project you're doing now, I knew you're doing a lot of things, but Lollipop Grand Prix, first tell us where the name comes from. I know because we've talked before and I'm a Grand Prix fan, so I kind of get it. But a lot of people go, what is this all about, this Lollipop Grand Prix thing? Is that because Grand Prix is tasty like suckers? Or what does that mean?
Well, the Lollipop was a tool used in pit lane to indicate for a car to stop for the pit lane, for the pit stop. And on one side of it was a long pole that the chief mechanic held out. And he'd, put it down, the car would drive to the end of that Lollipop. And they still use it in NASCAR, I believe. And on one side it said, brakes, which, just reminded the driver to keep the brakes on because the car is obviously on and revving and they're changing tires and refueling. And then they would drop the car off the jack, they would flip it over, 90 degrees, and it would say first gear to remind the driver to take it out of, 6 and put it back in first. And then they'd lift it up and it would zoom off. Within a year of us starting Lollipop, it became an electronic Lollipop, which is basically stop and go light, which is, it's all literally about milliseconds in Formula One. And 0.3 of a second is like an hour in Formula One. So if you're shaving off any bit of time, it is critical to winning a race or, passing that next car. It's funny. A lot of people don't understand it, but I'll fly around the world. I'll fly into let's say just Australia or whatever. And they say, who are you with? I say Lollipop. All the accreditation people all start singing the song Lollipop. So it just works as this universal, it's a universal word anywhere in the world. And the only difference is in Latin America, it's spelled with a Y, not an I. So it's Lollipop. And it's this cute thing that everyone knows what it is.
Well, I think it's brilliant because when you think about well-known brands, I mean, think about Google. Like where that word, or Amazon, these huge brands.
That's a river, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yeah. Sometimes it feels
I've swam in it a few times.
A big river. Yeah. Well, you've done some incredible things. But I love the name. I think it's great. And I just wanted our listeners to kind of get it. Maybe some people don't follow some of the racing and they're like, where did that come from? What's your favorite thing to do with what you're doing in your career right now? What gets you most jazzed?
Having this access to Formula One paddock and all these drivers and all these incredible people and these journalists and writers and mechanics. And I'm in this place where, everyone is so incredibly passionate about what they do. And, they're getting on planes every, 9 days like I am, and they're flying around the world and they're putting everything into it. And it's just it's an incredibly inspiring place to work. Sometimes, there's definitely personality shifts and there's a lot of egos, for good and for bad. But man, I respect everyone I work with, just hands down. If you don't work hard, you won't last 2 races. You just can't do it. And it's very inspiring.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. That breed of racer, that level is so far up there, so competitive in what it took to get there. I've had hundreds of racers on the show here, and almost all of them that are into open wheel or anything aspire to be F1, especially, of course, the young ones, of course. I've had plenty of racers that have already raced F1 and raced Indy and all that. Well, let's talk about a big challenge or a big failure that you've faced in your life, your career. I want you to kind of take us to that painful place, but more importantly, what was the learning lesson after you came out of that, and how did you move forward in a positive way from that experience?
Well, just going back a bit, I started as a travel photographer, and I was being sent around the world by like Outside Magazine, Men's Journal. United Airlines had 3 perfect days in their in-flight magazine. I was traveling to like Africa and China and the Arctic and the Amazon, et cetera, and just back-to-back jobs. And I had this great career, and I loved what I was doing. And I was also shooting portraits, occasionally shooting food and some other things. And then in 2008, when the economy crashed, like 40 magazines I worked for just closed. Suddenly there was not another assignment. There were always assignments down the line. Like I knew what I was doing for 6 months in advance or more or less. But then suddenly I had 2 or 3 assignments, and there was like down to 2 assignments, then 1 assignment, and then there was 0 assignment. And I knew, we all knew, but it was just kind of over. And most of my friends within a year or 2 left New York, stopped doing what they're doing, went to teach, changed careers, do something else. And I was very lost, like most people. And I just had to persevere and believe that what I'm doing is good and stick with it. And, back to cooking. I wasn't cooking elaborate meals that year. It was like, there was no, French cheese and Spanish cheese. Like, let's just keep it very simple and get through the year.
Yeah. And, more mac and cheese.
It was more maybe some pasta with olive oil and sea salt, but it was in survival mode, and I didn't know what to do. And so I took a personal trip. I decided to, I was in the Metropolitan Museum here in New York, and I saw a little model of Damascus. And it said, Damascus, Syria, 8000 BC, the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. So I thought I should go check that out. Like I have time and it wasn't going to be very expensive, but I needed to take some new pictures and refresh my portfolio. Well, I went there and I spent 3 weeks traveling through Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon by myself, and came back and was in the desert and all this stuff. Went to Aleppo and all these places, and I came back and sent out a promo piece of a guy standing in the desert. And a few weeks later, I got a phone call from an ad agency that a bank liked this image and thought I might fit this project. And basically, what they wanted was someone who could be basically invisible in this workspace, take good pictures, but not disrupt the workflow of this big bank. And I got the job, which sent me around the world for about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it basically financed me to get out of all the debt from the bad year before, and was able to allow me to go to this rock concert and start this Formula One project.
What a trail. Well, there's some wonderful learning lessons with that experience. And what I heard was when times are challenging and you've got free time, again, stick with your passion, but go out and look at something new in a different way and really force yourself to do that. Because a lot of people, like you say, they've just quit or they'd hunker down, not do anything, just wait, which is the worst thing to do, especially during that time period. I can't tell you how many guests I've had on here that suffered greatly through that, lost businesses, relationships, cars, houses, whatever it might be. But I think it's great. Pretty bold what you did. Oh, I think I'm going to travel and go out and do some more shooting. And look where it led. Wow.
You just never know what anything's going to lead to. And it's part of that saying yes thing. I mean, you go to you get invited to a party and I don't want to go. It's 8 o'clock at night. It's freezing cold. I just want to stay home and chill out. And then I go and I meet the most amazing person, or there's something I'm inspired along the way, or I see an image on a wall, or something gives me an idea, and it can lead to a massive thing, and you never know. I remember when I was in art school, in Art Center, they would say, take risks. And I didn't know what that meant. I literally thought, should I stand on a bridge and put myself in danger? I didn't know what it meant, but I know what it means now. And what it means is walk into that room, 500 journalists in Formula One, put your computer down, plug it in, do your thing, and don't worry about anybody else. It's not an easy it's not an easy introduction. You're not going to make friends for a while. And it's not because of you. It's because it's not about you. It's about, they're on deadline. They're writing for every paper in the world, and people from Denmark and Russia and China and of course France, Spain, Italy, et cetera, Germany. If there's a driver from that country, there's a journalist. So there's Finnish journalists, there's Danish journalists, for Kevin and for Kimmy, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just go work, take the camera, go out, walk around and look around and see what happens.
Take a risk, take a chance, and open your eyes. Keep your eyes and the shutter open to look for opportunities. I think it's great. Let's take a short break and thank our sponsors. We'll be right back. Edelbrock has been the name in automotive performance since 1938. Edelbrock designs and builds thousands of the finest automotive performance products right here in the USA for both street and track. From their AVS2 carburetors to V6 superchargers, if it's more power you crave, Edelbrock delivers. Let's talk superchargers. Whether it's an application-specific system or a universal fit, their precision-made assemblies come in multiple stages for a wide variety of makes and models. Their V6 superchargers are dyno-tested and ensure the perfect fit and maximum horsepower torque, plus added boost. You get huge power gains. I mean huge power gains. Quality construction you can trust and backed by decades of knowledge. Edelbrock is a brand that provides you with proven performance. And I've got a deal for you. This January 2020, you can get 10% off if you use the code CARSYEAH at checkout. Just go to edelbrock.com and use CARSYEAH, all one word, at checkout and get 10% off. Tell them Mark at CARSYEAH sent you. That's edelbrock.com, checkout code CARSYEAH for your 10% off. My favorite collector car magazine is Keith Martin's Sports Car Market. I've been a subscriber for decades. Sports Car Market is the Wall Street Journal for the enthusiast and the collector. It's your monthly must-read whether you dream of owning a collector car, have 2 cars, or 200. Sports Car Market has been around for 31 years, and it's filled with valuable articles, intelligent write-ups, and the latest auction sales. Go to sportscarmarket.com and subscribe today. Plus, you'll get the exclusive SCM guide to restoration shops included for free. At checkout, use the code CARSYEAH and receive a 50% discount on your digital subscription. It's an exclusive offer from me here at Cars Yeah. I'm Mark Green, and I love Sports Car Market magazine. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah. And I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp., member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. All right, we are back. I'd love for you to share a story with me that instigated the passion that you have for automobiles. A pivotal moment in your life when you knew that perhaps you were a car guy.
Well, I think I was born a car guy. I was born in Fresno, California. And like my block had probably half a dozen Mustangs on it, for example. And my mom, when my parents were divorced in the early 70s, my dad bought a 73 2002 TII. It was red with a round taillight. And my mom bought a white 240Z. And her friends all had Carreras. And a friend of mine in high school his dad had an Aston Martin DB5. And so I was aware of all these cool cars. And, Fresno's not a sexy place, but there were certainly a lot of cars and a lot of car collectors there because of the climate. Just hot and dry. So I always loved cars. My brother and I could point out any car on the street. We knew exactly what year it was. And I was reading Road and Track at the time. Professionally, I had a friend named Jason Harper. We met on a travel assignment riding bikes through Calgary, basically, area. And he was starting his career to start writing about cars. And he called me after this job we did together, and he said, "Hey, I have a Lotus Elise. Want to go for a drive one day?" So I met him. We went for a drive, and had some beers afterward, and had a great time. Took a few shots. Next week, he had a Ferrari. Next week, he had a Porsche. Next week, he had
wow.
a Bentley and Aston Martin. But he'd get like the Vantage, and he'd get the real car. From that portfolio, which is kind of me hanging out with him, shooting the car on location, we'd go upstate or somewhere in Pennsylvania or something, just take a few frames. I built a portfolio, and from that, we convinced Outside Magazine to send us to Palermo, Sicily, to photograph the launch of the Ferrari California as guests of Ferrari. That was kind of the first job where I was down with Sue Calloway and Jason Harper, and we had a car for 3 or 4 days and just racing around Italy. And during the introduction, when the media officer, that's an F1 term. I know it's not that here, but anyway, the media person, just delegate, just said, hey, we basically paid the police to not give you tickets, so just go have fun with these cars. And our jaws dropped, but it was true. And nice. We raced around Italy for a week and had a great food and had a great time. And it was one of those things where I never foresaw being in Formula One, but I was like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. And I didn't say that out loud. I just thought to myself, this is so cool that, again, just saying yes to things. Like, I'm not a car photographer. I still don't consider myself a car photographer. I consider my subject matter racing right now, but even the photos aren't really about racing. It's about the back, behind the scenes, these mechanics, building this car, getting to the grid, all this smoke and steam and tires and cool tools and gloves and all that, and these faces of guys who've been working all weekend long to get this car prepared and on the grid. That's what my work's about right now.
Very cool. Before I ask you this next question, which will be about a special car that's been in your life, I want you to talk briefly about this camera that you've been playing with. And I mentioned it in the opening here. Very old camera that you've been shooting some really, really cool, unique photography with. Kind of explain where that came from and why and what that's all about. Now, remind our listeners, I'm going to put a link to a video that was shot about Josh and this camera, so you can watch more in depth and learn a lot more. But I find it fascinating. Well, when I was in Art Center, I had a teacher and a mentor named James Fee. And he was shooting with a lot of old cameras and primarily with Graflexes. He encouraged a few of us to get cameras and he told me basically to loosen up. Like, you've got to loosen up, man. Take this and go take some pictures. And I went to Prague with my mom for a winter Christmas trip and shot just built bridges and the river and some cathedrals and all that. But it just gave it this dreamy look that fit Prague. It looked Eastern Europe in winter with snow and swans on the rivers and all that. I shot it for a while. And a lot of us in school were shooting with the camera. So a lot of our work looked very similar. And, those lenses have very shallow focus. So the fall off is immediate. Like, if I focus on your eyes, your eyelashes may be out of focus. It just has incredibly shallow depth of field. Well, I shot it professionally. But, when I moved from California to New York, a lot of the art directors were saying, hey, the mood isn't really black and white, it's more color. So I started shooting color, and I was always a color photographer as well. When September 11th happened, the New York Times called me and said, did you shoot Ground Zero? And I said, no, I didn't. They said, well, if you decide to go down there, let us know and we'll put you on, you'll be on assignment. So I thought for literally 10 minutes, and I said, I'm going to take my Graflex down and shoot firefighters coming out of the rubble. So I did. And I went down and spent, the 13th of September all day down there shooting film. And it was very intense. And some of the reaction was good, some of it was very bad. We published those images in the New York Times Sunday magazine. And I put the film away and I put the camera away. And thought, this isn't the right time for dark, moody, black and white photography.
after a year in Formula One, my first season, I did 8 races in 2013 when the FA kept encouraging me to come back, like come to Silverstone, come to the Nürburgring, come to Spa, come to Monza. So I said yes, and I did. After that season, I was like, well, I've shot 8 races. Like, what can I possibly do in Formula One to keep this interesting? And of course, I mean, there's a lot more now, but at the time I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe I was laying in bed and I was thinking, maybe I should shoot Monaco in period and bust out the Graflex and just see if it looks like, the 1920s. So I emailed the FIA. And I said, hey, Pat, I have this old camera. I want to bring it to the race. Can I shoot it? And he goes, does it shoot pictures? I said, yeah. He goes, you can bring it. I said, okay, but hang on. I said, it's really big. It's very cumbersome, whatever. He goes, Joshua, listen, does it take photographs? Yes. Okay, you can bring it. And I reluctantly brought the camera. And, I hadn't shot it since 2001 that day. So I bought film, loaded the film, all that, cleaned the camera up, and I went to take my first picture, and I realized that my eyes had changed. I couldn't focus the camera. So I had to basically, bring my eyes 6 inches above the focusing screen. I didn't have very much success, but people reacted to the camera very well. And I stuck with it, and I spent about a year shooting it, and I didn't really, the results weren't that great. There were a few good ones, but not really, because it's not the right camera to shoot a car going 200 miles an hour. I took a little break from it, brought it back, and started taking pictures of people, of portraits of mechanics and drivers and team principals and that. And then I started shooting in pit lane and then on the grid. And then the pictures started to tell a story. And it basically was to evoke, the romance and history of Formula One racing, which I think is very unique among all the racing series. Formula One has this incredibly rich history. And the other thing was, that year the advertising in 2013 or 14 were like, it was like Lotus had like Rexona anti-dandruff shampoo. McLaren had some other ads like that. And I was like, let's just make this black and white, make it a shape of silhouette. So you don't think literally about who these sponsors are, but the shape of the car, the aero, the tires, the hands on the steering wheel and the, intakes and AirPods, all that beautiful stuff. And now I was shooting maybe 200 frames per race, which is a lot. Cause I have 10 holders which hold 2 sheets of film each. So once I shoot 20 frames, I have to go into a dark room, a portable dark room I bring with me, and change the film.
Oh my gosh.
It's very elaborate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I shoot about 60 to 80 frames. And if there's not a picture, I don't push the button. I feel more confident that this is a good shot. Otherwise, no.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But no, it's made so many friends. I've had the Mercedes guys, the Ferrari guys, and Lotus guys repair the camera in their garages while there's with all their cool tools and tape.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredible friend maker.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I love the video. And I love the fact you're doing a lot of portraiture with the drivers and then handing them the camera and having them shoot other drivers, I think is very cool too. Giving them a hands-on with this very old technology, and they're living in a world of super hyper technology. The whole juxtaposition of that relationship. And obviously it's created wonderful bonds for you with the drivers and with the teammates.
It's so cool. They all say hi. Everyone says hi. Yeah, what happened was in 2017, I was flying to Spain, my second race of the season. I do Australia and Spain, and I was like, what am I gonna do this year? Like, how do we keep Lollipop fresh? How do we find new images, not tell the same story? And I took a night flight from New York, and I arrived in the morning, and there was a text on my phone from Ferrari saying, we want to talk to you about a project. So I arrived in Spain, and I'm like, yeah, that was like, everything is always, that's as cool as getting FA accreditation when Ferrari calls me. Everything about it's just like,
no kidding.
Like I'm like by myself on the plane going, is this really happening? And there's no one to share it with. I can't like look to the guy next to me and say, hey, Ferrari called me. It's just this thing you have to you internalize and like take a deep breath and go, okay, be cool, get up early, be on time. So I went to see Ferrari and they said, we have an idea. They said, we think that it'd be cool if Kimi photographed Sebastian and Sebastian photographed Kimi. And then in turn, in exchange, you can take their portraits. And I'm like, that sounds cool. When? They said, well, how about 11 o'clock? So I'm like, okay.
Okay, I'll be there.
No, so then like my heart's pounding. And it's like, okay, go back, take a deep breath, put some music on, chill out, clean the camera. I tested the camera. It worked. Tested again. The film was loaded. I closed my eyes for about 45 minutes. Didn't tell anyone. Went in. And Kimi's just standing there in pit lane, totally bored. And he's kind of a loner. And he's actually very chatty. He chats a lot more than people think, but he's there. And I just give him the camera, and suddenly he's treating it like the most delicate thing in the world. And, there's something to portraiture where I need to be in charge now. And even though it's Kimi Räikkönen, I can't be starstruck or intimidated or thinking, it's the Iceman. It's like, this is just now a guy, a very fast taxi driver in my mind, And he's got my camera in his hand. And suddenly I'm helping him, navigate the camera. He's asking me tons of questions about it. And, big smile on his face. He loved it. And it was just, straightforward. And he said to me, he goes, people take thousands of pictures of me every weekend. I never see any of them. And I'm like, you'll see this one for sure. Yeah. And, of course, I brought him the picture. And we don't say hi. We don't high five or anything like that. But there's an occasional nod. And it's just, it's nice to be able to give back to Formula One, just to give something unique and different and have a reason to be there in a sense,
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, let me ask you this. Has there been a vehicle? I know you live in New York City where a lot of people don't have cars, but in your life, when you think back, was there a first car in your life that was very special for you?
This is funny. I learned to drive in a 71 Volkswagen van in Fresno.
Okay.
So, I learned how to drive the hard way. But my first car was a 2002 as well. So I love that car. I was in high school with a cool BMW, and it helped me make a lot of friends.
Yeah, I love that
those.
Car. What year was yours? Was it a Roundy or?
No, it was a 76, and I was 16. I bought the first car I saw. It was actually brown too, and I never liked the color, and I wish I had bought an older one, but I didn't know any better. Just bought the first car I saw. I wanted to buy a 3.0 CS after that, and then I drove one, and it smelled like my car, and the fourth gear synchro wasn't working, and the brakes were heavy, and the clutch. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. So then my mom had a 85 535i, which is a fantastic car. Yeah. She upgraded to a 540, and I bought her car from her.
You got a cool mom.
She maybe gave it to me, but yeah, I had a very cool mom.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, here's a very introspective question. I like asking this of creative people. I'm going to get in your head a little bit here, Josh. If you woke up tomorrow and you were manifested as a vehicle, not what you want to be, but how you perceive yourself as a vehicle, what would you be?
I don't know the answer to that, honestly, but I would hope I'm like an early Jaguar E-Type.
Why is that?
I just think just clean lines and just simple, to keep it really simple. And I think simple is hard. Some of the compliments we got with Lollipop early on, which I didn't realize, was people would say, you guys show so much restraint in your magazine. And, I shoot a whole season, we publish 200 pictures, and there's a lot of white space and clean typography. I didn't realize I was good at that, I don't design it, but we're still working as a team to design the magazine. I didn't realize I had that quality, but when I think about the way I dress or the way I cook or the way I try to interact with people, I think it's just to keep it as simple and minimal as possible. And the painting I like, I'm into Mark Rothko, and it's extremely complicated, but it's people, it's also currently simple.
Rothko, interesting. My father is an architect and an artist and taught me how to see things quite well. I think that was always his thing. But one of the things I remember he used to say is, a masterful designer is somebody that knows when to stop adding things. And it's a lot of what we just talked about here. You spoke about with the Jaguar E-Type. Of course, that's the car that launched my passion for cars.
Oh, wow.
My regular listeners know that. My dad bought me a Matchbox by Leslie that was a red Jaguar E-Type. Still have it to this day.
I have that in my house right in front of me. All the paint chipped off. It's kind of ruby red.
Yep, exactly.
Gorgeous car. Yeah, I have that.
That's the one. Very cool. I love it. All right, we're entering the last lap. This is a series of questions I'm going to ask you to give me very quick answers for. So here we go. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years?
When I came into Formula One, I thought I had a bad memory, and I made it a point to remember everyone's name. And somehow I can meet 20, 30 people in a day, and they can be from Serbia, Romania, UK, France, and I remember their names.
So this is an important question. So many people have a challenge with that. Is there a trick or tip you might offer on how you do that?
My dad used to tell me, he's like, if I said I'm bad with names, like, no, it's because you don't care. And my dad meant it harshly as a dad. He wasn't being, it was a little bit negative, but it's like, hey, if you care about something, you'll learn it. And I just wrote their names down, and I would just practice it, and I would go say hi to them. And, in Formula One, if a press officer comes to you, you better know their name.
Great advice. Write it down. Yeah. If I could arrange for you to sit down and have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would it be?
I think Gordon Murray would be an awesome guy to meet.
Yeah.
He seems down to earth, but also to the history and the beautiful cars. I've met a lot of the people in Formula One, and the guys I hang out with are mostly the mechanics, and because they're the guys who've been there for 20 years. Team principals come and go, drivers come and go, teams come and go, manufacturers come and go. Those guys have been there through like the Lotus years, the Briatore years, through Schumacher years, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, what a life.
Yeah,
Gordon Murray, definitely. Now, I always ask people this question. I'm going to mix yours up a little bit. I usually ask people, what's the best automotive advice they've ever received. I would love for you to share what's the best photography advice you've ever received.
That's a good question.
Because here's why I love this question for you, because you've got an eye, you're a photographer. I think photography has become so easy, meaning accessible. When you think about that old camera you used, not too many people could figure out how to do that. Now we have these phones and everybody's a photographer, but I think it's dumbed down how we perceive or what we perceive as great photography. Now you look at people's Instagram, oh, that's so great. Not really. So from a photographer's eye, if you were going to offer those folks out there a piece of advice when they're shooting something, to take a moment, maybe a little longer, take a little more care perhaps, what would it be?
I went to Art Center and I had these amazing instructors, and I was so inspired by every word they said that I would take things literally and, take risks and try to figure out what that meant. So I think be vulnerable is good advice, but technically, first thing, turn the flash off your camera. Like, always use ambient light if you can, or do a long exposure. I think a flash just ruins a photo for me, and it's just not my aesthetic. It doesn't render light or shape very well. The second thing is, you decide whether you want motion or not motion, or whether you want focus or shallow depth of field, which means, it's only sharp in the very one point of the frame. I have always shot my camera wide open, so it's, as little depth as possible. And when you shoot wide open, you lead the viewer on what you want them to see, because your eye goes to what is the focal point of the image. So I think with a few simple tips, like go to manual and just play around with apertures or shutter speeds, but definitely turn that flash off.
Yeah, and take a risk. How about a tip for listeners out there, or a resource that you found really useful for yourself? This could be a website, an app, a supplier, maybe it's a person.
I look at everything. I think that you mentioned before architecture. I walk through the streets of New York City looking at architecture all the time. And my best friend when I was in art school, I was in art school in New York for 1 year before I went to Art Center. But he was an architecture student, and we'd go look at the Whitney, building, which is Marcel Breuer, and we'd go look at the Seagram building, which is Mies van der Rohe, and the Lever House, and so many other buildings. Then we'd go to the Museum of Modern Art, and we'd look at, Giacometti and Rothko and Jackson Pollock, and art I didn't necessarily understand, but I grew to love. I think all of that applies to what I do. When I photograph a mechanic, I'm thinking Giacometti. I do slow shutter speed. I want him in motion. I want that foot just off the ground casting a shadow. I want the car just moving. I'm thinking often about a painting or about a piece of sculpture. And, racing these cars are so sculptural, so it's sort of a given. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, it's a great piece of advice. And it's why art, even if you don't understand, let's say Rothko, or modern art, even if you don't understand modern art, learn about it, look at it, and you can translate that knowledge to other things, like you've said. Architecture, looking at great architecture, and then how do you translate that to something else in your life? I think you said it really, really well. How about a book? Is there a book you'd like to share with our listeners?
The first book I read was, as a sort of a 15-year-old kid, was On the Road by Jack Kerouac. And that absolutely inspired me to travel. And I, read it again later on as I got older and understood it in different ways. Jump on a bus and cross the country at that age in that decade, in the 50s. I think I've lived that. I think I've done that. I've tried to, get on the road and just, go for it. Be vulnerable. Say hi to the guy next to you on the bus. Say hi to the guy next to you on the plane. Don't have attitude. I don't think I'm any better than anybody else. I just happen to be very, very, very lucky. And by saying yes and taking the risk to leave my commercial career to follow F1 racing for a year and then do it again and again and again, it creates these opportunities. It's not going to happen sitting at home.
There's the magic golden nugget again from Josh, you listeners. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Yes. All right, we're up to the checkered flag here. I'm going to buy you a very cool car today. I don't care if you live in New York. I'll even buy you a cool garage, park it in. How's that sound? But there's a couple rules to my game since I'm writing the big check here. You can't sell this to buy a bunch of camera gear or travel the world. You've got to keep it. You've got to drive it and enjoy it. But here's the kicker. It's the only one car you can have that's a collector car. So what's it going to be?
Well, I'm not materialistic, and I have one camera. I have a couple pairs of jeans. And I thought about this question, and I've had love affairs with cars. I always wanted an '89 Carrera, just a simple white, Porsche with black leather interior. I've always loved the E-Type. But the car that's been getting into my skin the last couple of years is the Alfa Romeo Montreal, like an orange one.
Ah, very cool. Well,
it's kind of a badass car. And it has a Italian V8. Everything seems wrong about the car, but it's just right. And it sounds amazing. And I think people would just go, what is that thing and why? And I think it'd be a very provocative car to own and drive.
Yeah, the Montreal is pretty darn cool. Very unique. I'm not surprised you picked something very different like that, but it's got that beautiful Italian flair. It'll go with that Italian meal that you're going to cook.
There you go.
I think it's great. What color would you like yours to be? Because I've seen them in some very cool colors.
You know, I love all the colors, but I think the orange one speaks to me.
I knew you were going to say that.
You did?
Oh yeah, I just had a feel. Well, here's why, and my listeners know this about me. I've got an orange '87 Porsche Turbo 930 Turbo that is a very unique color. It was painted at the factory in a metallic orange. So, but I've seen the Montreal in orange, and it just works on that era car. I think it wouldn't be metallic, of course. It would need to be a monochromatic color, but yeah, orange works well.
I think it's playful for that car. Like, it came in a kind of a bright, kind of a royal blue, but it's not royal. It's a little more, a little lighter. Yeah. Came in this beautiful, like, deep kind of forest green with this, you know, they all have like black highlights, but or black trim, but it seems like they knew they're having fun with this car. Like, it's a playful car. It's serious, but it's kind of not serious.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Cool. Can't wait to bring that over there to you in Brooklyn and park that in a nice garage for you to enjoy. Take out in the countryside. Yeah, that'll be fun. Well, you've taken me on a great ride today. It's been great. I knew it would be. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. Could you offer us, our listeners here, one little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off into the New York countryside in that beautiful Montreal?
If you haven't traveled, get out there and travel and meet wonderful people around the world. And while the world's changing so fast right now, when you're in Italy, you're still in Italy. When you're in Spain, you're still in Spain. The world hasn't become homogenized, and I'm so happy for that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, travel is so important, and it helps you realize, despite what we see on this, sometimes not so popular or positive social media, the world really is. People are really a lot alike around the world. They really are. And if you take the time to talk and listen with them and learn from them, you'd be amazed how much like you they are. So very cool. I want to let our listeners know you can find out more about Josh at lollipop.gp.com. Just go to the website there. I'll put links on his show notes page. You can find links to everything he shared with us today on his Cars Yeah website page. Just go and type in Joshua Paul, and you'll find everything you need to know. Josh, thanks for being so generous today with your time, your expertise, and for sharing your experience with our listeners. Until you and I talk again and I have that wonderful meal with you there in Brooklyn, I'll see you down the road.
Mark, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this.
You're welcome. This has been fun. Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.